Welcome to the Finance Committee meeting of February 11th. Under this Governor's emergency order, we are authorized to work remotely and on video. All of our votes and motions will be done through roll call votes. Tonight's agenda deals with Department of Public Work budget items, including building maintenance and parks, which are under other categories. Jim, can we start with building maintenance and then go to parks and then get into the big DPW section?
Sure, Mark, if you don't mind. I know Rick had a couple of opening comments that he wanted to make before we jump into all of it.
Just let me do the roll call for attendance. I just wanted to get the order lined up so everybody could be ready. Okay. Please say here when I call your name. Denny?
Here.
Josette?
Here.
Allie?
Here.
Andrew?
Here.
Steve?
Here.
Susan?
Here.
Jeff?
Yes, here.
Kathleen?
Here.
Lucy?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
Doug?
Here.
Mark Sullivan?
Here.
Lisa, did she get in yet? Does not look like it. And myself, so we have 13. All right, let's turn it over to Rick Mattson for his opening comments.
Sorry, Mark, just to let you know, Lisa's having trouble logging on. She tried the link and she's getting a bad message.
Okay.
I used Monday's link to get in.
It's a different one.
No, Monday's link is the same one as today's.
I'll resend it to her. I just sent it to Jeff.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
The passcode's the same, but the ID is different.
Yeah. All right, Rick, when you're ready.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for having us tonight. Tonight you have before you all the Public Works budgets, including, as you stated, Mr. Chairman, building maintenance and parks. As you will note during your review of these particular budgets this evening, there have been some nominal adjustments made to the particular budgets, and there have also been some significant changes made to others. As you note in the salary section, you will see that in the Highway and Parks Department in particular, the salaries have increased significantly. That's as a result of the addition of 2 new positions that are proposed within this budget. These 2 positions will be shared equally between the parks and highway departments. The thought process is that we can utilize these people as seasonal workloads dictate, and it'll give the superintendents a better pool to draw from in terms of employees. Also, there's another position in the engineering department. It's a full-time inspector's position that we propose. That's to help the engineering departments with outside inspectional services, with pavement management, inspections of subdivisions. What this will do is allow the town engineer to focus more on review and comments of the projects throughout the town. He's been inundated lately with the Route 1A construction, as you can imagine. We've got MBTA bus stops going on. We've got multiple subdivisions that are about to break, the 40B in South Walpole. So Carl's been very busy. It's been a long time coming, and that department definitely needs help. You'll see on the expense side, there have been some minor increases, and there have been some significant decreases. Mr. Chairman, you wanted to start with the building maintenance department. That's
Yes.
where you'll see the most significant decreases. Those decreases were as a result of Superintendent Anderson's review of his budget. Some of the notable decreases are in the utilities to the new police station, new fire station, and new public works garage. He's got better historical data to work with. The previous budgets included funds that were best guess estimates. Really had no idea what these utilities were going to cost us going into those buildings. He's also made some reductions in his inspectional services. He's got better numbers on that. Again, historical data. Inspectional services, while they're mandated, particularly for elevators, fire sprinkler systems, and things of that sort. Don has a good handle on the numbers, and he took the initiative to go ahead and reduce that as well. They also reduced a lot of the, I believe they're in equipment maintenance lines that he has in his budget, schools and other facilities. Don feels that with the money that the funds that he has in this particular budget, he's made good strides in doing what he needs to do to maintain those buildings properly. And as a result, he reduced those as well. You'll see in the engineering department, there's a reduction in the expenses of about 20%. That is a direct result of dam inspections, which are typically done on 4-year cycles. So that's something that may recur in 3 to 4 years, depending on where we are in the cycle. And that's really all I have to start as we get into the budgets one by one. The respective superintendents and the town engineer Carl are with us tonight, and we're here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, so Lisa is in now. We are going to start with building maintenance, which if you're looking at the summary budget, it's page 11. Or if you're looking at the detailed budget book, it's in tab 4, page 23.
So,
Go ahead, Jim.
Mr. Chairman, so just with that, since it's the only one left in general government, total requested for building maintenance is $2,363,558.
Just a quick question in general. When you mentioned that the new police and fire stations utility bills have now got a better track record, how are we doing this year on our utility bills? Are we seeing any spikes in rates, or because the school's going hybrid, they're still basically doing a full year worth of utility costs, because even though there's half the kids in the school? What kind of expense are we incurring? Are we on pace? Are we going to be saving or up against the limit?
I'll let Dawn answer that, or Rick.
Yeah, Don, I haven't seen anything out of the ordinary, Mark.
Okay.
Everything seems to be pretty much where it is. Don, maybe you can add a little more insight.
Yeah, as of right now, I would say, and it all depends on weather as well, but as of right now, everything seems to be on track. I'm not foreseeing any problems. I was concerned when the year first started with all this information out there about all of your schools are supposed to open up your windows and leave your heating systems running full blast, and I was afraid we were going to start seeing some problems with that. But as of right now, we haven't had any real bad situations, and I think we're on course as far as I don't think we're going to have any problems maintaining our heating systems.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll open up to questions on building maintenance. Anyone? If there are none, we can, yep, Brian.
So first, I want to thank Rick and your staff for decreasing expenses and going through that with the fine-tooth comb. It is appreciated. I do have a couple questions. One in regards to the old town hall and what is happening at that building, and is there any way to reduce those expenses even further?
So I could speak to what's happening at that building, and Patrick, feel free to jump in if I missed anything, and Dawn can then speak to the expenses. So I can tell you that we've bid that project out 2 times. We were trying to get some type of brewery or office, temporary office setup going there. We even reached out to the county to see if they wanted to set up shop there for the treasurer's office or some of their county offices, more like a satellite. We've received no interest whatsoever. We had 2 breweries who were really interested in it before COVID. We actually walked through there with some people from the state just before COVID because we received 2 or 3 years ago, we received $1 million bond authorization, which is more of a wish list for the state. But through Mark Sullivan, he hooked us up with some people with Mass Economic Development Office. But unfortunately, COVID hit and it just didn't go anywhere. And the breweries backed off. This time, the second time around, we just did it a couple months ago. The brewery said they were interested, but they want to wait to see what happens with everything. So we've tried multiple times to go out and do something with it. Roger Turner's still over there with emergency management. We've been using it for some storage, not very much because we want to keep it pretty empty. We did auction off all the old furniture that was over there. Got a little bit of money, but not much. Melissa considered using the vaccine clinic over there, but I was a little bit concerned with handicapped access. So all options are on the table and we're open to anything you folks may think of. Pat, did I miss anything?
No, Jim, the only thing that I'd add on top of that is we were recipient of a $75,000 grant, I think about 2 years ago, to make some improvements to the building. For those of you kind of watching what the state's doing, they just recently announced at the MMA conference this one-stop grant program. So essentially it's an umbrella for a lot of the economic development grants that the state is doing. So actually just today I submitted, they call it an expression of interest. So essentially they'll help kind of guide the town down the right column for grant programs. So as far as some of the deficiencies that were identified during the feasibility study that we did in the building 2 years ago, we're hoping to use some of that money to offset some of those costs. So pretty much the message that we got from some of the businesses that were interested in the building is they just wanted to see how the market stabilized after COVID before investing in real estate. So understandable, and we'll keep in contact with a few leads that we've had and see where it takes us in the near future.
And Mark.
Brian, are you all set?
Thank you. I have one other question.
Then
Just with the possibility of a new middle school being built, I just want to make sure that the repairs for the Bird Middle School and Johnson Middle School are kind of the bare bone, what we need to get by for the next couple of years, so that we're not spending money that's not going to be utilized for a long period of time.
Consider that done, Brian. We're on the same page.
Thank you.
Denny?
Actually, I just had some thoughts for the building, but I'll run them by Jim and Patrick offline,
Okay.
so we don't waste time here.
Alrighty. Other questions on building maintenance? Okay.
Yeah,
Mark.
Vice President.
Just to piggyback off
Sure.
Brian's comments, there is, $55,000 worth of suggested equipment repairs for Bird and Johnson. If we elaborate what we're looking at.
Yeah, so I know that there's a project in the works of trying to replace a school, but what we have to remember is we can't start neglecting the buildings that we have in anticipation of these buildings shutting down. I still have to stay into these buildings, and especially with the middle schools and the kids going back in there, I have to maintain the boilers. I have to maintain the alarm systems. When we start having some damage in the bathrooms, I have to take care of that. So I'm not saying that we're going to be going in there putting in new carpeting in the principal's office, but you do have to keep money in those budgets so that when things go wrong, we have to keep these buildings operating.
So Don, you'd say that 55,000, that's really light on cost.
Yes, we're maintaining our buildings is what we're trying to do. When something happens, we have to take care of it.
Thanks. All set, Mark.
There being no other questions on building maintenance, we can then vote general government. If somebody wants to put forward a motion on general government, the proposed budget by the town administrator is $5,760,299.
So moved.
Moved by Denny. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got Kathleen on the second. Okay. And Kathleen is the second. Alrighty, there being no other questions or debate. All in favor, Denny,
Yes.
Josette,
Yes.
Allie,
Yes.
Andrew,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Lucy,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Mark Sullivan,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
and myself, yes. 14-0-0 favorable on general government. Okay, next on our list is going to be parks, which if you're looking in the short summary is page 28. And if you're looking in the big detail, we are in tab 9, page 32.
Page 58 in mine.
Sorry, 58. Sorry, I wrote it on the wrong line. 58, yes.
No problem.
Yep. So tab 9, page 58 is the big detail.
So, Mr. Chairman, total recommended amount for parks is $883,418. And I would note that this is the last budget in culture and recreation to consider.
Right.
Any questions on parks? I see Justin on there. He's the picture up in the tree there.
Okay. I got Josette with some questions first.
Clarification on line 523010, the water. It's gone from $29,000 to $49,000. And could I just have a clarification? Granted, it's all the water that's being used, but that's quite a jump, or is it as a result of putting everything together?
Rick, do you want to address that?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Kind of figured that question was going to come up, Josette.
I didn't want to disappoint you.
No, I know. The reason for that is that is directly related to the South Walpole Athletic Complex, the new complex. The grass
Okay.
field up there is constructed as such that it's a sand-based field. It's designed to drain, so it's very playable friendly. So any type of rain or any type of irrigation is going to run through that field and basically back into the ground, so the field will remain playable. That's our best guess estimate as to what it's going to cost us to irrigate that field. I believe it was $20,000. Correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, but I think it was $20,000 for the water for that particular field.
Yes, that's correct. It was 20,000. It's based off of the rough footprint of what Bird is right now. They're about the same size, with the difference that the one up in South Walpole complex is, as you said, a sand-based field with drainage underneath, so it won't hold the water quite as well as Bird does.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions on parks?
Doug has a question on that same line item, or I guess just a clarifying comment. It looks like in the summary, it cites $49,000, but when you add up the actual line items, it looks like it only comes up to 48.
I see 3 separate water lines in the big detail.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
That brings it to 48. Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
This budget's it'll be a little difficult to follow this year because Justin changed the format of it. He broke it out into 5 basic, more system detailed project codes, where you went to administration, trees, active area, and passive areas. Whereas before it was all encompassing. So next year you'll get a better sense of what the actual costs were.
Thank you.
Mark, I have a couple of questions. Mark
Sure, go
Sullivan.
ahead, Mark. Yep.
Generally, I'm just curious about the jump in some of the increase in cost. For instance, other professional services, it goes from 0 to almost 15 or 14,480.
Right, I believe, Mark, that was as a result of the restructuring of the budget. That money was previously accounted for in other lines when the budget was, again, all encompassing, where everything like the active administration, trees, passive areas were all included in one particular line. Now Justin's broken them out to, to the 5 different project codes.
Okay, so is that kind of a similar reason for the jump in the seed and fertilizer?
I believe that it is.
Okay. All right, I'm set. Thanks, Mark.
Lisa?
Yeah, sorry, trying to unmute here. Yeah, I was also concerned about the other professional services. I completely understand that it's great to reorganize a budget in a way that makes sense to the new management, but when I look in the detail and it says this line item is used for professional services associated with schools or whatever, could be fertilizer, could be new playground equipment. It just seems like a lot to be called other. You know, are we getting new playground equipment? If we're getting fertilizer, shouldn't that already have been represented maybe under a line that says fertilizer? So yeah, so I still like a little more clarification on other professional services and similarly machinery. Again, I imagine that this is something that has already been or has historically been categorized somewhere else, but I'd like to know more specifically what machinery. I mean, for $9,000, there could be something quite nice. So those would be my outstanding questions there.
Right. If you look at the overall increase in the total parks budget and the expense portion of the budget, it's $25,501. It's 14.5% increase. Again, $20,000 of that is directly related to the water for the South Walpole Athletic Complex. Now, Justin has taken items that were previously accounted for in other lines and put them into specific areas. He's got a project system that he's broken it out into. So I don't think there are any new expenses. Justin, maybe you can help her out with the equipment portion and.
Yeah, so the equipment portion is just, sorry, excuse me, is just replacement of wearable tools, i.e. rakes, shovels, stuff like that, backpack blowers, which will come in, like a backpack blower will be like $600 at a shop. That's just basically to keep the running maintenance going on those and replace as needed. As for the other professional services, I'm just trying to pull it up because I have it broken up right now. I'm looking for the exact page that's sitting on.
So while Justin looks on that, I just want to call upon Jody. This was something, and I understand, Lisa, I actually had the same reaction. Geez, these are some big increases, but if you look overall, it's like Rick said, it's only about a $25,000 increase, but this breaks, what he's doing is going to break it out even further. And in future years, it'll allow the accounting department and you folks and myself to track him even more. Jody, do you want to add something to that?
Sure. Basically, what's going to happen is Justin broke everything down in a way that he can manage it as best he can. And he will be getting a combined budget report along with individual statements for each area that he's broken down. I think, you know, when we go into next year and the year after, you'll start to see the trend in the way that he wants to manage it. So I think it's a good tool to use. We did the same thing with building maintenance several years ago. And, you know, I think it's a great idea.
So Justin,
go ahead, I'm Jody, sorry. So like Justin and Rick and Jim were saying, it's just a reallocation of funds. So the total bottom line is really hasn't changed all that much, except for that 20,000 in the water.
Sure, but I guess I'm still wondering what is the breakdown of the 9,000 and the 15,000?
Justin, were you able to find that?
Yeah, so basically looking on my paperwork now, if you look at the project code, the 530900, the other professional services, as it's sitting on that first page, and you're seeing that 14,480.
Yeah.
What it's not representing on that page, but it represents through the larger breakdown is that's broken down through my different categories, going through trees, active areas, passive areas, schools, and through administration. So that 14,000 is broken within those five. So right there, I know it looks like it's a big jump, but if you were to cut it across the board, it's not that big of a jump.
And in those areas, it's paying for what in those different areas?
So depending on the area that it's in, if it's in the schools, then that would have been under more of the playground mulch, the playground equipment replacement, things along that nature. If it's inside of like the active areas, then you're talking about the fertilizer, the seed, the wetting agents. Passive areas the same.
Yeah, from the big detail, basically there's a 1,000 for forestry operations, 4,000 for schools, 5,000 for other active recreation areas, and 4,000 for passive recreation areas. So I'm assuming the passive recreation would be
Those are your, oh, sorry, excuse me. Those are your areas that don't have an active playing field, i.e. a soccer field, a football field, a baseball field. Those are be your parks like Springbrook Park, the
Yep.
Commons, areas like that.
okay. Does that help, Lisa?
Well, I think I have to let it go. Is there any breakdown on machinery and equipment?
So machinery and equipment, let me just pull it, is that falls, if I remember correctly, falls all under the administration. And that is just similar to what it has been in the past. And like I said, that's just to replace the small wearable equipment, i.e. chipper, blowers, chainsaws, rakes, shovels, brooms, and so on.
Thank you.
Other questions? There being none, that completes culture and recreation. The town administrator has recommended for culture and recreation $2,001,382 for that budget category. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Josette. Do I have a second?
Second,
By Doug.
Doug.
All right. There being no other discussion, for favorable action on culture and recreation, Denny,
Yes.
Josette,
Yes.
Ally,
Yes.
Andrew,
Yes.
Steve,
Abstain.
abstain, Susan,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Abstain.
abstain, Lucy,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Mark Sullivan,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
and myself. That is 1202 for favorable action on culture and recreation. Okay, now we're on to the big part of DPW, which in the full book is tab 7. And in the abbreviated version, pages 21 to 26. Jim, did you want to run through each of the budgets in summary, and we'll place holds?
Yeah, just like we normally do.
Yep.
Okay, so first one up is engineering, total requested amount, $331,479.
Hold.
Andrew?
Andrew.
Andrew.
Okay. DPW administration, $337,138.
Hold.
Doug.
Hold by Doug.
Okay. Highway division, $874,580.
Hold, Mark Sullivan.
Sullivan, okay.
Okay.
Snow and ice removal, $818,350.
Hold. Doug
Doug
and Lisa.
and Lisa, okay.
Okay, street lighting, $472,700.
Hold. Brian.
Ryan, okay.
We already reviewed solid waste and recycling last night. Landfill maintenance, 0. Cemetery, 167, 710,000. Okay. Vehicle maintenance, 491,399.
I have a question. Street lightning, who put the hold on it? You guys go fast.
I did,
That was
Josette.
Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay.
I did too, but I figured Brian's gonna ask the same question, but if he doesn't, then I will.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So back to DPW engineering is our first hold. And that is.
Hi.
Yeah.
Through you, Mark, just wanted to ask the engineering department some broad questions, because I see the new engineering inspector position as a great thing. And so it's not in opposition to this, but I just want to understand more of the workload of the engineering department. I read a bit on your website, and Carl, I've seen you give great advice at different planning board meetings and other town meetings. And so I just wanted to ask, in terms of the breakdown of the engineering department, currently it has 2 full-time staff, the assistant town engineer and the town engineer. It's housed within the DPW. But could you tell me, Carl, about the breakdown in the workload, the engineering workload between state or federal projects like the Route 1A expansion versus town projects, whether it be, town government projects like the fields in South Walpole or a new school, or private projects? Because my avenue for seeing a lot of your input, which has been excellent, has been through like site plan review, kind of planning board commentary. So I just want to understand better. To me, it's a no-brainer. We need more engineering support because it's such a good investment. But just tell me more about what the department does in the work allocation between those different categories: state, federal, and local government projects and local private projects.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Carl Waldorf, town engineer. I don't really have specific percentages on how our breakdown goes, but right now in terms of federal, I guess you could call the Route 1A project federal because it's coming down from federal money, but it's being done by the state. The other federally funded project we're working on actually is the Allen Dam. The Route 1A project, the assistant town engineer and I both work on. The Allen Dam has been more under my wing. A lot of my time is spent with review for various boards and administering grant programs, the Coney Street MassWorks grant, and a whole bunch of other things. Both Chris and I and Cheryl, the administrative assistant, spent a lot of time providing information to the public. So I'd have to say the lion's share of our work is really based on local, in one form or another, local projects. Whether they be providing information or review or supervision or doing things for the DPW. One of the other main components we do is we spend a lot of time on the paving, especially the assistant town engineer. So really, I'd say the lion's share is it's pretty locally based, but we do branch out a little bit every now and then.
Great. Just one follow-up on that. You have a lot of work, and I think I would imagine, maybe I'm wrong, that your work kind of grows linearly with the growth of projects in town, and whether that be public projects like the fire station, police station, council on aging, or all the private projects, which I know we've had a lot of private development, commercial or residential. So my question, just as a follow-up, is not to tattletale or anything, but just in terms of which boards you staff or departments you help, which is the biggest source of work? Is it the planning board, the various site plan reviews, or subdivision assessments I know you have to do, or is it ZBA? I don't know if you interact with ZBA or the building commissioner. I'm just wondering, again, I think all this engineering investment is 100% rock solid. I'm just curious where you, is it the planning board or is it the zoning board where you spend the most time with?
So once again, through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd say we're the pretty much sole reviewer for the planning board. So I'd have to say probably the lion's share goes to the planning board. A lot of the 40B projects now, we've got some help with peer review, but we still do quite a bit of small filings, variances, special permits, smaller filings. We did in a project at 1361 to 75, 63 to 75 Main Street. We did most of the review on that. So we do we do a bit for the Board of Appeals, and the Conservation Commission also relies on us heavily. So we do, I won't say they don't get some peer review, but we do a lot of also smaller reviews, and they rely on us on some of the bigger projects as well. So I'd have to say the number one is the planning board.
Well, thank you so much, Carl. I'll just end with a comment again. Keep doing the great work you're doing. My comment is this: I hope in the years to come, I know the town's going to have a master plan rewrite, and that RFP is already out. And then after that, I know there's an intention that Town Administrator Jim Johnson, he's talked about, which is to have a zoning rewrite after that master plan rewrite. So my last comment is, I really hope Carl and the engineering department, given all their expertise, how they understand the workload that the planning board and other town agencies face when it comes to new development. I really hope Carl and the engineering department has a big input on that master plan, and especially on that zoning rewrite in the years to come. So thank you so much, Carl.
Thank you, Andrew.
Mark, can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
It's in regards to the Route 1A, the reconstruction. Is there a kind of a timeline for that activity yet?
Through you once again, Mr. Chairman, the timeline, the project has been bid by Mass DOT. They actually opened bids just before Christmas. There's a fairly lengthy process on this project. You're talking about approximately a $20 million construction contract, and federal is involved. So we reached out to them and said, hey, how's it going? Via email, actually, and they informed us and said, everything's on schedule, but it takes quite a while to vet this out and get it awarded. So the short answer, it's going to start hopefully this construction season at some point, but I can't give you a date right now. So it's going to kick off this year and it'll get underway. And it's scheduled out over 5 years, so it's going to be a lengthy project.
Okay, thank you.
Andrew, you release your hold? Okay. Any other questions for engineering? Okay. DPW administration, Denny?
I had one.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry.
Doug.
I look like Denny in my handwriting. I got bad handwriting. Go ahead, Doug.
I was curious if someone could explain a little bit about the in-house staffing for the stormwater, the MS4 stormwater permit. I'm curious why that's kind of called out as a separate in-house staffing. Is this like an overtime pool? Why isn't this built into their normal hours?
Rick, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, it is built into their normal hours. There are 2 employees that actually are in the administration budget that work on the MS4 stormwater. One of them is the administrative assistant. That's 5 hours. It's budgeted for 5 hours per week. And the other is the conservation agent. A portion of her salary is included in this budget as well.
Okay, thank you. I released the hold.
Mark, can I follow up on?
I got a quick question on that one also. On the stormwater, is that something where we get reimbursed for providing services in that specialty from the various people coming before us?
No, this is directly related to the MS4
Okay.
federal state stormwater program.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Mark.
So again, staying on the stormwater, in FY20, it was 10,000, last year 15, and now it's 20. Can just give me an idea of why we're seeing such a big increase in the OpEx cost for it?
Right, that increase that you see there, Mark, is associated with the outside consulting firm that we also work with to administer this program. And then this is going to be an ongoing thing forever. This thing is not going to go away. We had some capital money that we were able to expend, which is why there was a reduction in 1 year. And the capital was, I believe it was reduced, and this budget was reduced last year, and this year we increased it again. That's just to keep the consultant going. It's Fuss and O'Neill, and it's directly related to their services. It doesn't include anybody, any town staff.
Rick, I'm curious, what exactly is this? Is there a maintenance program or you have to do new construction for stormwater?
It's not new, no, this doesn't, unfortunately, it doesn't involve any construction. It's all associated with, there's a lot of sampling. There are catchment areas that need to be delineated. Each of those needs to be tested in wet weather and dry weather, the outfall sampling. Part of this was mapping each outfall that the town of Walpole has to a surface water body. So it's quite an extensive program. Every city in town is basically in the same boat. You've heard of some towns that have established the so-called rain tax. I believe the town of Milton was one of those that recently did it, I believe a couple of years ago. That's how they fund it. We just choose to fund it through this particular budget.
Okay. So it's a lot more involved than just the water disappearing down the storm drain and not worrying or thinking about it anymore.
Absolutely. It's a regulatory thing with both the federal and state governments.
Okay, thank you.
Ready. Doug, you release your hold? Okay,
Mark, I've got one question.
sure, Jeff.
And it's kind of a little nitpicky, but I keep seeing it in budgets across the entire town. It was on public health. It's here too, cell phone for Director of Public Works. Is there something that can be done from a municipal level for a cell phone plan where this isn't an itemized expense for each one of the departments?
Maybe Jim or Patrick could answer that.
I mean, just.
But what are you proposing?
Approach it?
What are you proposing?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Are these?
I mean, have we ever looked into something, you know, first of all, this is only one cell phone for the entire DPW. I'm sure there's a greater need than that. But
So we do have our cell phone services via state bid. They're tracked each month for the accounting office. They're pretty cheap compared to what you and I pay. So we do that, but we like to track them by each department to ensure that we're able to track who has phones, who doesn't have phones as the years go by.
So if I understand, you have a master plan, you're just charging it back to the individual accounts. You're just
that's
splitting
what
the
that
bill up.
is?
To the department, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Jeff, I'd love for you to take my cell phone.
You can take mine too.
Alrighty.
It just makes it look like every department's got their own cell phone plan because they're different amounts too. So.
There's also, if I can just jump in, there's different devices. So if you think of some of the DPW foremen, for instance, they may have some of the flip phones versus, you know, Rick might have a smartphone. So thinking about Roger, for instance, he just upgraded his phone from a 2004 flip phone, trying to get him integrated into a smartphone. So that's why you'll see some of the prices are different because of the level of service that they provide.
No one's carrying one of those giant bricks with the bag and then the wired hand phone.
I'm sure Roger has one of those.
No other questions on administration? Highway Department, Mark. Mark?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark. I released my hold. My question was on the 1A construction.
Okay, so we're good?
All set.
Other questions?
I had a question on the snow and ice.
Okay, yep, we're moving to snow and ice, so we'll start with Lisa, and then
sorry.
Doug. Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay. It was just, what are we expecting in terms of sand and salt supplies? This historically seems like quite a lot of money. Did the prices go up for those materials or what?
And I'll answer first and then let Drew and Rick kind of take over. So this is all subject to how much snow we get. The last few years, we've been pretty lucky. You see that we've spent $851, $599, $420, and we've budgeted just around 18 this year. All that money goes back to free cash if it's not used. I can tell you, if we go back to 16, 17, 15, those will be totally different. So we're allowed to deficit spend in that account. That's one of the only accounts we're allowed to deficit spend. Right before the storm on Super Bowl Sunday, we had a balance of roughly 460, 450 around there. Since then, we've had significant storms on 2/7 and 2/9. Just to give you some perspective, the storm on February 1st into February 2nd cost about $169,000. So, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I think we'll probably, the way this winter seems to be going, chew through that, and we'll have to go into deficit and come up with some sort of, I have some ideas as to where I can pull the funds from. So, Drew, anything to really add on that one?
No, you pretty much said it all, Jim.
Rick?
No, I agree. We're definitely going to chew through it. I mean, there are 3 potential events coming within the next 7 days. So I think we're at $373,000 right now. So I would think that we, if any of these storms are significant, then we're definitely going to go into deficit.
Just need to figure out a way to stop these storms from coming. Bring summer quicker.
Okay, thanks. I'm good.
Okay. Doug, you had some questions?
Yeah, I had 2 questions. First one was about the contract plowing. I'm just wondering, I saw it was a $12,500 increase. I was wondering if we had to increase the rates. Are we not getting, contractors bid on this work, or why exactly that increase was there?
We have increased the rates somewhat slightly, $5 an hour here, $10 there, but it's more or less to keep competitive with the surrounding towns. A few years ago, Drew had the great idea of advertising on our signboards, on our message boards. And I noticed that, all the surrounding towns quickly followed. If you drive through Rentham or Norwood, I've seen them there. So it's just more or less being competitive. And, the hardest thing to find right now is a loader, right, Drew?
Well, that's correct, Jim. Yes.
Yeah. And it's just to be competitive there.
All right, that's what I assumed, but I also remember you giving kind of a similar answer last year, so I wasn't sure if we had fallen behind again or what. And my next question has to do with the next line item for professional and technical. I'm curious, what kind of service do we get from a call weather service that gives us more timely, detailed information about forecasts in Walpole? What does that provide that you can't get off of like weather.com or anything like that?
Drew, I'll let you take. Sorry, Rick, you can take that on the weather service.
It's a more precision-based weather service for our particular area. They're now monitoring the road temperatures and things of that sort, and they're giving us a better outlook with post-storm conditions and pre-storm conditions in terms of road temperatures, so we can decide whether we can just treat it chemically or if we're going to have to plow. They give us very frequent updates, sometimes every hour, every 2 hours, but no less than 4 times a day during a potential storm event.
But then it's much more than just a weather forecast.
Yes.
So
they also give us certified statements of the precipitation that fell in our area.
Okay, thank you. Release the hold.
Any other questions for snow and ice? Street lighting. Brian.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question on the security services. I see that's gone up quite a bit over, the 5 years that I can see. Are we on a rotation with that, or what is that increase?
If I could, through you, Mr. Chairman, the security services, this budget, even though it's labeled street lighting, it's actually street lighting traffic control. So that security services that you see there, Brian, that is directly associated with police service details that Drew needs to use in his highway department if the guys are in any roadway, whether they be repairing a catch basin or doing asphalt, patching trenches, things of that sort. So that's directly related to police details.
Was that previously in a different budget or a different line item?
It was in a different line item. I'm not sure, Drew, which one it was in. Maybe you can answer that.
Yeah, there was a small line item in the highway department budget, Rich.
Right. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And then as far as the street lighting, we purchase the electricity but do not own the equipment. Is that correct?
Correct.
And is there any updates into moving to LED lights to
Rick and
reduce
I-
the electricity
Yeah,
cost?
I can take that one, Jim.
Sure.
About a year ago, actually, Drew Hand met with a company called Tanko Lighting. And they provided him with a summary of financial analysis for the town to purchase all the street lights and convert them to LEDs. I believe the approximate cost of that was somewhere in the area of $1.1 million. And at that particular time, we didn't think it was, we didn't think we should move forward with a capital request to do that. This is something that we've discussed on and off over the last year, last several years, actually. And the goal is to ultimately get these things to LED to cut down on the electric costs, whether it be through Eversource or another mechanism. But we are constantly looking at this thing to try to make it a better situation for us.
And if I could just jump on that, with the acceptance, the select board decided to pursue the green communities this past December. And I think at least 3 or 4 of them have said, we'd like to see you pursue this as one of the top projects going forward, as one of our first projects. So what I just received a week or 2 ago was an inventory list from Eversource with all of our LED lights. I'm going to actually forward it to the consultant who's helping us and see if we can put that on as one of the first projects. I'm very confident that they won't cover all of the costs, but if, like Rick said, last quote was $1.1 million. Maybe if they pick up, I don't know, $300,000 or $400,000, maybe we can fund the rest through capital this fall if we move quickly on this one.
Yeah,
Excellent.
If I could, just one more thing, that the payback period was relatively fast in terms of investment. I believe it was somewhere around 5 to 6 years. So it would be a worthwhile investment if we could come up with the capital fund somehow, some way.
Excellent.
Perfect. Thank you. I released the hold.
So Rick, would we in theory own every light pole in town then and its light fixtures?
Not the poles, the fixtures.
Just the fixtures, okay. Alrighty. Because when you said purchase the lighting, it's like, okay, are you actually getting the poles too, or are we just the actual light fixtures on them? And okay, alrighty. No other questions on street lighting? We covered solid waste. There's no landfill holds, no cemetery holds, no vehicle maintenance. So the town administrator's request for public works is $5,686,989. Is that right, Jim?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Josette? Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Mark. Okay. So we have a motion and a second for favorable action on DPW's budget. And we'll go in favor. Denny?
Yes.
Josette?
Yes.
Ally?
Yes.
Andrew? Andrew?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep. Steve?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Lucy?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Mark Sullivan?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
And myself, 1400. All right. Thank you, members of DPW.
Thank you all. Mark, I know the DPW is the only thing on the agenda, but I just want to update the board on just 2 things.
Okay.
So next week, you're only meeting on Thursday night. You were set to discuss Walpole Media Corp's budget and personnel board. Personnel board is all set. Mr. McGrath will be on the call. He actually sent us over a memo for the board that I'll send out tomorrow along with the Zoom link. But Tamara Green, the director of Walpole Media, and Gene Kinney, the board of director chair, had asked for an extension. We talked about doing something the night of education, since some of the things they're going to be covering is improvements to some of the schools. So they are likely going to be coming in on March 1st. I've checked with Bridget, Superintendent Gotham. She was fine with letting them come in at 7. So just an update on that one.
Okay. Yeah, because one of the questions I asked when we were talking about trying to reschedule them was what kind of capital are they looking at to put into their budget? And I saw the email that went out and it's like, yeah, there's several things they've already done under their capital, but there's also a to-do list and they're trying to figure out exactly which ones they want to try to move forward with for capital appropriation within their operating budget. So, okay. Any other questions for tonight? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn
Motion to adjourn.
by Denny. Do I have a second?
Second.
That was Susan. Yep. And, okay. Favor of adjourning, Denny,
Yes.
Josette,
Yes.
Ally,
Yes.
Andrew,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Lucy,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
and myself. 14:00. We are adjourned until next Thursday. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your long weekend.
Thank you.
Next week.
Thanks, everybody.
You too.